Hey everybody, this is Richard.
And this is Arslan from Upper Canada College, and you're listening to the first ever episode of the Asian Mantu Munchies, the show that talks about a book every week for people who just love to read.
In today's episode, we will be discussing the book The Thing Around Your Neck by the Nigerian Chimamanda Adichie, set in post-World War II. Specifically, we will sink our teeth into chapters Cell 1 and the Private Experience. We will dive into the rich and unique types of narratives that Adichie uses to share her ideas and imagination that surrounds her belief around Nigerian culture and other social issues.
So our curiosity about Adichie's writing style enabled us to delve deeper into understanding the way The Thing Around Your Neck was written. So Richie and I are going to highlight some major themes and interesting ideas formatted by the author, as we start by talking about how impactful the book was as a whole, and transition to stories we found the most compelling, such as Cell 1 and the Private Experience. So furthermore, we will be simultaneously comparing the literary, entertainment, and social merits each story holds.
As we discuss these stories, we will be highlighting some of Adichie's ideas that may have been unnoticed when reading, and some central themes found throughout the book.
Alright, Richie, let's hop into story overview. So as you all know, within the different chapters in Adichie's The Thing Around Your Neck, I actually find it so fascinating how we transition from story to story.
For real.
Like experiencing brand new settings and being
yes.
like immersed into different times in all the protagonists' lives, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So this writing style is so interesting as we rarely have encountered a book like this. What do you think about it, Richard?
Yeah, I agree. I feel like every story is a whole different story, but actually, if you think about it, if you read the entire book, they're all like together. Using these like short stories to create a bigger image of like Adichie's life and her perception of the world, finding like the beauty and also the issues of the world.
Yeah, so I guess in the instance of Private Experience, we jump straight into the setting of a small convenience store. I guess it's like a small convenience store. So unknowing of the backstory of who the characters are, you know? But then we're given a small taste of setting in descriptive manner and context, which sets the mood and tone of the story to unfold. So the chapter is told in the third person perspective and highlights a special and eye-opening interaction between two women, Chika, which is a wealthy Christian, and a poor Muslim hijabi who wait out in a store amid a riot between Christians and Muslims. So while the two wait out in the store, Chika gains a new perspective on the Muslim woman, like freeing herself of the single story she was told and seeing about Muslim people being poor and like imposing violence on non-Muslims.
Yeah, so like my chapter is the first story of the book, Cell 1. So Adichie like really sets the stage for an action-packed story by telling us about a robbery, which is none other like committed by the narrator's own brother. Like, is that not eye-catching or thrilling enough? And it's also told through a first-person narrator, who is the sister of an average family member. Her brother is Namabia, a troublemaker. Her father is a professor, and her mother is a housewife, right? So the story shows how a setting and community shapes identity and character. On the very first page of the story, the sister tells the reader that, like, she and her brother would watch Sesame Street. They would read Enid Blyton novels, American novels. They would eat cornflakes and listen to Michael Jackson and Prince. Adichie already, immediately makes it evidential that the setting, although it's in Nigeria, it's steeped in Western influences. It's prevalent with Western influences, is especially in welfare communities, which corrupts the characters to some extent, often blinding them to the truth and about their own societies, especially regarding social injustice.
So in the Private Experience, Adichie interweaves a number of different issues that go deep into the conversation about the different parallels and discrepancies between the two religions on opposite sides of conflict. So I think this invokes themes of vulnerability, most importantly, and identity.
Yeah.
So while the personal experiences are distinctive between the women, it makes us wonder if we truly differ from one another that much. So the setting in which the women hide out in is a small store, which Adichie refers to as, and I quote, smaller than Chika's walk-in closet back. Yeah. So I guess with the use of comparisons to environments we're all so familiar with, such as a walk-in closet, we begin to visualize a cramped area. And so because of the initial mistrust of one another based on societal biases, it demonstrates how physically vulnerable the women are to one another in this predicament. So furthermore, when the Muslim woman began to pray, it evoked the importance of religion in Chika. Despite her beliefs in another god, she still obtained an important lesson from the private experience of the woman's prayers. In that exact moment, she understood what it meant to have a beautiful bond with the higher power, and how religion can transcend boundaries, even between cultures rioting against each other. And I actually just love the way Adichie describes stories by switching between present and future tenses. Like it spotlights the present action, but and then looks into the future, providing the reader on what's to come next with context.
Yeah, for sure.
And so like actually, I love the use of symbols within the story. So Richard, what's a symbol in Cell 1 that you can think of?
Yeah, so for me, I think a symbol in Cell 1 would definitely be Namabia, where he undergoes a colossal transformation. So at first, he was thought to be a static character where he only is known for his good looks and for committing petty crimes.
Yeah.
But once you dive in deeper into this story, you'll be able to understand that he's more than just a static character and turns into a more dynamic character by growing some empathy and remorse when he went to Cell 1.
Yeah.
Adichie uses the sister's first-person narrative voice to illustrate how the dynamic character of her brother highlights three important themes: social injustice, inequality, and personal growth. When Namabia was in prison, right, he met an old poor father who had just lost his son. Adichie uses vivid imagery to show the readers how abusive the prison officers are to the old man, and the lengths to which they go to humiliate him simply because he's old, he's powerless, he's poor, and most of all, he's vulnerable. The old man becomes the ultimate symbol for social injustice within the story. Again, from his sister's first-person account, her tone is so satirical when she mocks how post-colonial Nigerian society perceives gender equality. Men are able to pass on their family name and are most dominant during post-World War II in Nigeria. And as you know, Namabia, as a Nigerian male, had so much freedom that he was able to sell his father's test answer sheets to his students to make some money. And when he got caught, he was let out scot-free, showing how much his parents favored him over his sister. Lastly is he realized and he reflected in jail how terrible that imprisoned father's life is. He experiences a breaking point that triggers his transformation from a spoiled rich kid to a young man. After experiencing this harsh moment, he changes his opinions and becomes more diverse and more quiet and humble on his way to becoming a better person.
So honestly, I'm not really accustomed to Adichie's style of writing, where each narrative has its own characters, setting and plot, you know? But Richie, I actually think we chose a fantastic book to begin at first, of many analysis.
Yeah.
So I found Private Experience to be very compelling, where I was immersed in her stories, like especially with like her storytelling and her imagery, painting the story as if I was there to experience it.
Yeah.
So her writing style transports readers into the chaotic setting of the riot, while simultaneously focusing on the intimate moments between the females, when Chica feels the Muslim woman cracked tout and dark brown nipples, and observing that the areolas were lighter toned.
That was a very powerful statement.
Exactly, especially
very
with
descriptive.
Yeah, and so furthermore, Adichie employs the use of emotional like relatability through providing the characters with personal experiences that we as readers can understand and like feel empathy for.
Yeah.
So for the females' personal stories combined with Adichie's skillful use of like depicting internal thoughts resonates with us, ultimately relating to the characters.
I feel like Adichie's her purpose is to try to make us feel remorse for the Nigerian culture and try to spread awareness for what is happening there.
Exactly. Yeah. And honestly, my personal connection to the text is so it focuses primarily on like a private experience. There's like a moment where time stops, and you have like a really deep connection with a friend, you know. So honestly, for me, it's got to be those late 3 a.m. walks. I know what you, I know you know, yeah. But it's like a moment where time freezes. It's dark. Everybody's fast asleep, and you get to build like a special bond with the person you're hanging out with. Whether it's like you're being vulnerable to one another and you're discussing any sad or low moments you had in your life where you're trying to grow from. What about you, Richard? What do you think in Cell 1 were some, like, did you like the book?
Yeah, no, like the novel? I found, well, the novel, first of all, is like a 10 out of 10 for me, honestly.
Yeah, I have to agree.
But I felt like the story was very thrilling, stirring, and action-packed, right?
Yeah. So,
because Cell 1 was the first story of the book, right? Mm-hmm. She wants us, the readers, to be captured. So she definitely had to have a Western take to it because that's what readers usually prefer.
Exactly.
So then she decides as this story to be the first chapter, And it shows the dominance of Western culture, right?
Mhm.
Where it makes it more relatable and engaging for like the Western readers.
Exactly.
And
Like
it hooks
makes
them.
Yeah, it makes you want to like continue reading.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. This is why this is the first chapter,
Mhm.
and it's like a short film, right? Because there's robbery,
Oh yeah.
Namibia, robbing his only family is like crazy.
I know, right? Like
I would never do
yeah.
that. I'll get beat. But yeah, and then there's also gang violence, with his gang, and it goes to prison. It shows like there's some tension. The readers want to know what's gonna happen next. Is he gonna make it out alive or he's gonna die? Because we all know cell 1 is where if you're in cell 1, you're dead. You're done.
Yeah.
So it creates a lot of suspense.
I know.
So then the author also highlights how the world can never be fair and there's always corruption. So the world is based on lies, and it conveys like a feeling of distrust and disillusionment where like you can corrupt anyone with money and power.
Yeah.
So personally, this reminds me of every time I've lied to my mom so I wouldn't get beat.
For school purposes, that is a joke entirely.
Yeah. So while this story expresses really something deep insight to reality, was there a point in private experience where it taught you a great lesson about the world?
Yeah, honestly, in terms of like social merit, I think this text is super significant to us, as it is all one that we can relate to and like learn from, you know? And more specifically, I think it highlights the danger of a single story.
Mm-hmm.
So Adichie fits this notion within a related work where she goes on to talk about this power of a single story in a TED Talk deemed to be one of the most popular and known internationally. So in this talk, she states that the power of a single story lies in its ability to, and I quote, show a people as one thing, as only one thing, over and over again, and that is what they become.
That's a great purpose.
Unquote.
Yes.
I know. And so, in other words, it's getting told the same thing over and over again until that story becomes one's reality. So we can see that through like Adichie's use of Chica in the story, she initially meets the Muslim woman with a singular story in mind. That the woman is poor and a killer, and like the rest of the Muslims. And she thinks that the necklace that the woman has lost and is so worried about is nothing more than, and I quote, plastic beads threaded on a piece of string, in comparison to the expensive original Burberry bag Chica lost. So I guess we can all relate to the danger of a single story, and it applies to many facets in our life. Like for me, for a one, I'm not gonna lie, I used to believe that like non-brown people never had any seasoning on their food. Yeah, I'm being so serious. But this ideology was like quickly demolished when I went over to my friend's, my white friend's house, and his mom cooked some amazing curry. I'm not gonna lie.
Really?
Yeah, obviously it was nothing like my mom.
10 out of 10?
No. I was saying this like a 9.5.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's solid.
it was really good though. But like honestly, it shows how you should never fall victim to a single story, and you should always like read into a topic or fully submerge yourself in a subject before jumping to any conclusions.
Yeah.
So like Richard, what's one example of a single story that you've had and like in your life?
Yeah, you put me on the spot right here, but I'll think maybe yeah. So I got this one. Maybe I thought so. I had a nanny when I was born because my mom doesn't know how to care for a baby.
Oh.
Yeah, so I always thought my nanny never had a family because she was always like taking care of me every single day, and she was sleeping in our guest house.
Yeah.
I also thought she had no friends because she was always taking care of me. Yeah, but then I realized that she had a family when I turned 5, and she brought her family over to Toronto,
Oh,
right?
damn.
From Philippines.
Oh.
So then she went to live with her family, and then like for 5 years she had a family, and I never knew. Like I feel grateful and guilty at the same time that she took me as a higher priority than her family and her own daughter.
Damn, Richard, that's actually something you've never. Well, I guess we all gain new insights when listening to the Mantu Munchies podcast. Yeah. But like, honestly, I feel the inquiry that was super prevalent in this, are like beliefs and values. Like more specifically highlighting, like the global issue that I narrowed down is the clash of different cultures and beliefs, and how initially this might result in distrust and tension between separate parties, and then until like we all come to understanding that we are all just one people, and we should strive for peace, and we all strive for peace within like the different communities, you know. So before sharing the private experience between the Muslim woman and Chica, Adichie invites us to analyze Chica's character development and how her belief in Muslim Hausa people transformed dramatically when being able to share like these vulnerable and special moments with a woman whose culture and beliefs like clashed with hers, you know. So I guess they transcend cultural barriers by sharing these times of serenity, encouragement, and even quiet camaraderie.
Yeah.
So I guess this shows that the author highlights the notion that people can find unity in one another even in the face of disparities.
Yeah, I like the way you said that humans are always trying to find tranquility. While that may be true in your story, it's completely different in Cell 1 for sure. Because there's a lot of corruption, as you can see, where I believe like culture, identity, and community, which is my goal issue, really is really prevalent in Cell 1 as humans are trying to find tranquility, but there's always going to be those humans that are putting their selfish goals ahead instead of humanity's goal, right?
Yeah.
There's always going to be that one person.
Damn.
But yeah, so Cell 1 actually teaches us like the setting and how community really shapes these types of people, like Namabia. Think about it. If Namabia was born in a totally different community where he had a poor family, his family didn't love him, he could have been different.
Yeah.
At least that's what I like to believe.
Mm-hmm.
So this global issue really correlates with Cell 1 as Namabia has like connections and community that led him into the wrong direction without the right mindset. I like
exactly.
to think.
Yeah, because like your upbringing is what truly defines your character.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like if no one's bringing you down, what's helping you bring you up, right? Like like you might just stay static. Yeah.
Damn.
So Namabia ignores all these signs that tells him to stop misbehaving and committing these petty crimes. But after entering in prison, that's the breaking point that allowed him to change for a better.
Yeah.
All right, now we have analyzed every nook and cranny of this book. Shall we wrap this up, Arslan?
Yes, sir. So firstly, thank you so much for listening to our first ever episode. I really hope you enjoyed this moment of vulnerability between the Muntu Munchers. But before we go, let's talk about one highlight I rated out of 10. So for me personally, I love the moment when the Muslim woman gave her hijab to Chica and truly ended the chapter on the notion of reaching tranquility between the two opposing cultures. So me personally, I would rate this chapter an absolute 10 out of 10.
For sure. But for me, my favorite part of Cell 1 was when Namabia changes for the better and became a dynamic character, feeling remorse and empathy for an imprisoned stranger. I'll rate this chapter a 10 out of 10. Let us know in the comments what you guys think about Cell 1 and their private experience.
Yeah, I agree, Richard. So make sure you guys let us know what your favorite moment in the book was as well.
Alright, fellow viewers, our next episode will be on Moby Dick, so start reading.
Until next time, we the Muntu Munchies have just cooked.
Artlist.io